Welcome to the Deep Dive. You asked us to unearth the hidden calendar, the one that defines December, not just by, snow and Santa, but by resistance, reclaimment, and this incredible cultural dynamism.
That's right. We've stacked our sources, and our mission today is to give you a true shortcut to being well-informed about the geopolitical and cultural significance of December within what we're calling the global Black calendar.
And when you do look beyond those dominant narratives, December really transforms.
It does.
It becomes this critical nexus point where the shared history of the African diaspora of struggle, of spiritual perseverance, and creative genius, it all converges.
And across four distinct, yet, as we'll see, fundamentally interconnected global regions.
Exactly. The African continent, the United States, Brazil, and the Caribbean.
And we're not just, listing holidays here. We are really trying to examine how deeply entrenched Pan-African ideals, specifically things like umoja, which is unity, kujilia, self-determination, and kumba, creativity, how they manifest in specific, tangible rituals.
So think about the spectacular masquerade of Junkanoo, or the deliberate creation of Kwanzaa, the political muscle shown in Montgomery.
Or even the literal redrawing of the map through African independence days.
Right.
The sources all confirm that the underlying purpose across thousands of miles is this profound affirmation of Black identity and historical legacy.
It's an active living framework.
It is.
And whether these practices are legislated by a state or they're just bubbling up from grassroots culture, the result is the same.
Okay.
December becomes a month that's dedicated to acknowledging the past while, strategically preparing for the future.
So let's impact this global Black calendar. We'll start right here in the United States, where December serves as this really profound anchor for both modern civil rights struggle and a cultural self-definition.
And that foundation of modern political resistance in the U.S. during December is really anchored by a single courageous moment.
December 1st, 1955. Right. That's a key detail people often miss.
It is.
She refused to surrender her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama.
And this wasn't just a spontaneous moment of exhaustion. Our sources really emphasize this was a calculated political ignition point.
Her refusal was the agreed-upon catalyst for action that was planned by the Women's Political Council.
And it immediately sparked the Montgomery bus boycott.
It did. But what truly defined that struggle was its collective commitment and the sheer duration of it.
It wasn't just a one-day protest.
No, not at all.
The boycott started almost immediately after Park's arrest and lasted an extraordinary 385 days.
Wow.
This was a massive logistical challenge that demonstrated the practical application of ujima, that's collective work and responsibility, on a scale that fundamentally changed American political dynamics.
Let's talk about that, because we often forget the practicalities of maintaining a boycott for over a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it required an alternate transportation infrastructure. How on earth did the community manage that daily sustained mobilization?
Well, they essentially built a sophisticated, a shadow transit system overnight.
Really?
Yeah.
Thousands of Black residents refused to ride the buses, which forced the creation of the Montgomery Improvement Association, the MIA.
Okay.
And they organized this huge network of carpools using private vehicles, recruiting volunteer drivers.
Just regular people.
Regular people, often running their personal cars into the ground for the cause. Churches became dispatch centers and meeting points.
And the cost must have been enormous.
Oh, absolutely. They had to raise huge sums of money, sometimes up to $2,000 a day.
In 1950s money. That kind of sustained economic and physical organization is it's astonishing.
It is.
It's not just nonviolence, It's extreme organizational muscle.
Precisely, and that makes the victory even more poignant.
The successful mobilization, led by figures like a young Martin Luther King Jr., proved that organized economic withdrawal and nonviolent resistance could translate directly into legal change.
And the power of December as an anchor here is that the political victory that affirmed this entire process, it actually brought the boycott to a formal close in December as well.
That's the critical bookend.
Right.
The whole thing culminates on December 20th, 1956, following that landmark U.S. Supreme Court ruling that outlawed bus segregation.
Okay.
The African American community in Montgomery voted unanimously to officially end the 385-day boycott.
So, December marks both the beginning of the organized resistance and the month that celebrated the ultimate legal triumph.
Exactly. It cements it as this vital period for reflecting on the power of mass mobilization and, collective sacrifice.
Okay, so transitioning from that organized political resistance to a more spiritual vigilance, we find one of the oldest and most profound traditions in the Black American calendar, Watch Night.
Watch Night, or Freedom's Eve.
And the context here is less about active protest and more about this profound, almost agonizing hope.
The tradition dates back specifically to December 31st, 1862.
Okay.
And it's hard to overstate the magnitude of that night. We have hundreds of thousands of enslaved people gathering in secrecy in fields and woods and cabins, sometimes in support of churches.
All waiting
For the stroke of midnight that would usher in January 1st, 1863.
Which was the effective date of the Emancipation Proclamation.
That's right.
Imagine the tension. You're legally enslaved one moment, gathered in the dark, risking severe punishment. Right, just waiting for a government declaration that might or might not fundamentally change your life.
The active gathering itself was an assertion of collective will.
It was an act of profound theological and political faith.
These services, often characterized by quiet prayer, forward singing, and sometimes spontaneous outbursts of praise, they institutionalized the experience of waiting for official freedom.
And it linked Black spiritual life directly to political vigilance and legal emancipation.
Yes.
So, how does that spiritual urgency translate into the structure of the tradition that we still see today?
The contemporary Watch Night service, which is still a cornerstone in many Black churches, it carefully mirrors that historical anticipation.
Okay.
The service begins in the late evening, often with a religious service, contemplation, time for testimonials, resolutions for the coming year.
But the critical, unique element is the countdown.
The watchmen.
Yes, the watchmen, usually elders, deacons, or community leaders, they're tasked with collectively letting the congregation know the exact time when midnight is near.
And at the stroke of 12?
The service halts. The congregation traditionally kneels in silent prayer or deep contemplation, reflecting on that exact moment, their ancestors' transition from legal bondage to the promise of freedom.
So it transforms New Year's into this annual remembrance of the dawn of liberation.
Precisely.
We found this incredible anecdote about Charleston, South Carolina, that really demonstrates how integral this moment was to community identity.
The Charleston example is fascinating. It shows the immediate, tangible desire to celebrate.
Right.
But because it was so dangerous for enslaved people to gather openly on the actual night of December 31st, 1862, their celebrations were often deferred.
Until the Union troops arrived.
Right, until it was safe.
Yeah.
So in Charleston, the first large-scale joyous public demonstration happened in 1865, and that parade tradition took root.
And today?
Today, Charleston hosts the longest-running, continuously running Emancipation Day parade in the country on January 1st. A direct cultural legacy of that watch night history.
Okay, so moving forward a century from that spiritual waiting, December also anchors this crucial establishment of a deliberate cultural self-definition, Kwanzaa.
Observed from December 26th to January 1st.
And this isn't about awaiting external decrees from the government. This is about internal creation.
Exactly.
Kwanzaa was inaugurated on December 26, 1966, by Dr. Maulana Karenga, a prominent professor and activist.
And the timing is key here, right? Coming right after the peak of the civil rights legislative victories.
It's highly significant.
Karenga's argument was that legislative victories weren't enough.
Okay.
What was needed was a structural, cultural, and spiritual framework for self-definition for Black Americans.
And we note that the core goal was explicitly to provide identity, purpose, and direction.
It's a clear exercise in kujilia, or self-determination, defining and naming oneself outside the dominant society's norms.
Absolutely. It was a conscious effort to root the Black American experience in continental African heritage.
But not a specific African heritage.
That's a crucial distinction. He chose Swahili, which is a lingua franca of East Africa for the terminology, rather than, say, a specific West African tribal language.
Why was that?
The decision was very deliberate. It signaled a Pan-African vision moving away from fragmented regional identities toward continental unity, or umoja.
And the holiday itself is based on African harvest festival traditions, the first fruits harvest.
That's right, which is reflected in the name Matunda ya Kwanzaa.
Okay.
And Karenga actually added an extra A to the spelling of Kwanzaa to ensure the name symbolic contains 7 letters.
To match the 7 core principles of the celebration.
Exactly. The Nuzo Saba, they're the ethical and philosophical backbone of the celebration, and they're celebrated sequentially 1 principle per day.
So let's look at the Nuzo Saba, not just as definitions, but as this explicit socio-economic counter-narrative designed to address structural inequality.
They really do provide a 7-day framework for building a strong community and nation. The first is umoja, unity.
Okay, so a focus on maintaining unity across family, community, nation, and race. It's an immediate rejection of internal division.
Right.
Then, day 2 is kujichagulia, self-determination.
Which is that powerful mandate to define, name, create, and speak for ourselves.
Rejecting externally imposed definitions.
Then there's ujima, which is collective work and responsibility.
We saw that in Montgomery.
Yes.
The active commitment to build and maintain the community together, treating communal problems as your own problems.
In day 4?
Day 4 is ujamaa, cooperative economics. This is the explicit economic program.
To build and maintain our own stores, shops, businesses, and to profit from them together, it directly tackles economic exclusion.
Then, nia, purpose, which is defining a collective vocation, building and developing the community to restore people to their historical greatness.
It's so structured. What's after Naya?
Kumba, creativity, the commitment to always improve the community, leaving it more beautiful and beneficial than you inherited.
So linking culture directly to responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Amani, faith, to believe wholeheartedly in the people, the leaders, and the righteousness and victory of the struggle.
That is a profound ethical and philosophical structure.
It moves Kwanzaa far beyond a mere cultural observance. It does. It's the mandated framework for socio-economic growth and internal nation building.
And the symbolism employed is equally deliberate. Everything used in the ceremony carries weight.
Right. like the ka.
Exactly. The celebratory symbols are placed on the kapita, which is a straw or cloth mat, and its symbolic represents history, tradition, the very foundation the community is built on.
And what about the other visual symbols we associate with the tradition? The candles, the corn?
Well, you have the kinara, which is the central candle holder. That symbolizes the roots, the ancestral origins of the community.
Okay.
Then the mikvah, the 7 candles themselves, one for each principle, lit sequentially each day.
And the mahindi, the corn.
The corn is crucial. It represents the children, the future of the community. There has to be 1 ear of corn for every child in the household.
I didn't know that.
And you also have the kikumbe chaja, the unity cup for commemorating ancestors, and zwadi gifts, which are typically given to children and are often educational or related to the principles.
And finally, the aesthetics. The politically charged colors that tie Kwanzaa into the larger Pan-African political movement.
The bandera, the Pan-African flag colors, are everywhere: red, black, and green.
So red for the struggle?
The bloodshed for freedom. Black represents pride in the race, the people themselves.
And green?
Green signifies hope for the future, the fertility of the land and prosperity.
It is a completely visually and philosophically cohesive cultural declaration.
Okay, let's connect this search for cultural definition and legacy to the broader diaspora. If we turn our attention to Brazil, we see a different dynamic. Here, African spiritual and artistic contributions didn't just resist the dominant culture, they profoundly influenced and became integrated into the very fiber of national life.
That's especially evident in the December celebrations.
And no cultural expression is more foundational to Brazil than samba. The designation of December 2nd as the National Day of Samba?
That feels like a formal, deliberate correction of historical marginalization.
It is precisely the institutionalization of rhythmic resistance.
The Nacional de Samba celebrates a musical style that fundamentally evolved from the rhythms and dances of enslaved people and their immediate descendants in the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
Primarily in Rio de Janeiro, right?
Primarily in Rio, yes.
So how did that blending work? Was it purely African retention, or did it adapt to regional Brazilian forms?
It was a complex, beautiful syncretism. It kept the strong polyrhythms brought from West Africa, but it merged them with regional Brazilian dances like the moxies and the European zote.
And the creation of the escolas de samba, the samba schools in the 1920s, that really solidified its structure and identity.
It did.
So samba is this powerful affirmation of Afro-Brazilian culture. Its formal designation on December 2nd elevates that culture to the core of the national identity.
And it ensures its institutional survival. The designation affirms that this cultural expression, born of marginalized groups, now carries the Brazilian identity to the outside world.
Why that specific date, December 2nd?
The date itself was chosen regionally at first to honor the composer Ari Barroso. It started as a celebration in Salvador da Bahia, and then it just grew into a national festival.
To give the listener a deeper understanding, what are the key instruments that create that unique driving soundscape?
Oh, the instrumentation is key to its depth. The driving force is always the materia, the percussion section. It involves African-derived instruments like the massive surdo drums, which provide that powerful, throbbing bass heartbeat.
But it's layered with other things.
Yes, complemented by later, more Latin-influenced instruments. You have the tambom, a small frame drum, the ago, which is a double bell, and the cavaquinho, a small 4-string instrument, kind of like a ukulele, which often provides the melodic counterpoint.
And that layering of deep ancestral rhythm and light melody is what gives samba its signature complexity.
That's it.
And this integration of African spiritual life into national secular celebration, it's maybe most visible during Brazil's New Year's Eve.
Oh, Rayon, absolutely.
And many of these traditions stem directly from Afro-Brazilian religions, Calambele and Umbanda,
which famously syncretized West African and Roman Catholic traditions.
And what's fascinating here is that the spiritual tradition focused on the Orisha, or deity, Yemanja, the goddess of the sea. It becomes a shared national event. Even though Yemanja has her main festival in February, the offerings during Rion are just ubiquitous, especially along the coast of Rio and Bahia.
She embodies the protective, life-giving power of the sea.
Yes.
And the most iconic image of Rayon is the tradition of dressing entirely in white.
Right, symbolizing purity and peace.
It's an Afro-Brazilian tradition, the Filhos de Santo. The worshippers traditionally wear white.
And that's been adopted nationally.
It has. It's become the symbol of peace, purity, and renewal. When Brazilians say New Year, New Life, the white clothing symbolizes this hope for a fresh start, free from past burdens.
But the truly deep ritual involves physically engaging with the ocean, which is Yemanja's domain.
Absolutely.
The act of giving offerings is a collective spiritual cleansing.
So people will actually go into the water.
They'll wade out and give offerings, white flowers, scented soaps, small tokens to Yemanja, requesting protection and good fortune for the new year.
And there's a belief about the tide.
Right.
Yes, if the tide carries the offering away, it signifies she's accepted it. If it washes back, the request must be renewed with more sincerity.
And the wave-jumping ritual seems to be the most active manifestation of this.
It's a spectacular physical ritual. Participants travel specifically to the sea to jump over 7 successive waves at midnight, making a wish with each leap.
And that symbolizes overcoming obstacles in the new year.
It does.
And the number 7 is deeply significant in Afro-Brazilian culture, relating to various spiritual structures within Candomblé and Umbanda.
I love the intimate contrast to the external show of white, the secretive tradition of the brightly colored undergarments.
It adds humor and a practical intimacy to the spiritual request.
So while the white protects the outer spirit,
the undergarment color is meticulously selected to attract specific material desires, yellow or gold to attract money and financial success.
Ujamaa in action.
Exactly. Red to ignite passion and love, green for hope and health, and blue for tranquility. It's a very personal act of prophecy.
And this focus on attracting wealth and luck through ritualized consumption parallels traditions elsewhere. Brazil has its own powerful culinary prophecies.
These culinary rituals reinforce that diasporic preoccupation with overcoming economic precarity. The act of eating specific foods at the turn of the year is viewed as a form of spiritual insurance.
And the tradition of eating legumes for prosperity is evident here with the lente de sote.
Yes, lentils are favored because their small, round shape is thought to resemble coins.
So they eat lentil stew.
A lentil stew, yeah.
And to maximize the luck, there's a ritual. One should stand on a high place, a chair, a table, and take 7 even bites of the lentils immediately after midnight.
Symbolic elevating one's status.
Right, to increase the flow of prosperity.
And then you have the fruit ritual with pomegranates.
Pomegranates are symbols of fertility and abundance.
The instruction is very specific. You eat the flesh, but you save 7 of the seeds.
And what do you do with them?
They're meticulously wrapped in a piece of paper or cloth and placed in your wallet or purse. The belief is that this ritual draws wealth to the holder.
Our sources also mention an alternative wealth ritual involving bay leaves.
That's right. For those seeking sustained financial stability, a bay leaf can be placed with money in a wallet for the entire year.
But there's a twist.
No.
The money associated with that specific bay leaf must be donated to charity on December 31st of the following year.
Interesting.
And the bay leaf itself has to be discarded in running water. It emphasizes circulation and charity as part of the wealth cycle.
It's a fascinating blend of practical superstition and spiritual commitment. Of course, being in the Southern Hemisphere, Christmas food has to adapt to the reality of summer.
It does.
Unlike the heavy, dense winter meals of the Northern Hemisphere, Christmas in Brazil is often celebrated outdoors with churrasco, or barbecue.
And while they've adopted the European tradition of panettone, the local adaptation sometimes includes tropical elements like candied papaya, reflecting the regional abundance.
Okay, let's cross the Atlantic once more, moving north to the Caribbean, where December is just dominated by festivals that reveal an incredible creative resilience. They literally turned the restricted freedom granted by colonial powers into spectacular, globally recognized public art.
I'm talking, of course, about Junkanoo.
Junk is a powerful celebration. It is the national cultural festival of the Bahamas. So you see historical variations like Joku and Jamaica. It is just an explosion of music, dance, and complex, towering craftsmanship.
And the festivals are strategically placed around the colonial holidays, Boxing Day and New Year's Day.
That's right. They run late into the night and often start at like 2 o'clock in the morning on those days.
The historical roots really define the entire character of the festival. So it was a moment of release, but under colonial watch.
Right, which they transformed through sheer cultural will.
And this process of transforming junk into beauty is the profound embodiment of Kumba creativity born from material scarcity.
Let's talk about the complexity of the costumes.
The costumes are the centerpiece. They are labor-intensive masterpieces. Historically, they were made from easily accessible natural materials: sponge, straw, dried leaves.
Whatever was available.
Whatever was available.
Today, they have evolved into these vast, elaborate spectacles. The base material is typically cardboard, which is then painstakingly decorated and layered using crepe paper, tinfoil, wire, beads, taking months to construct.
So the preparation itself is this intense exercise in ujima, in collective work.
The sources say that the Junkanoo groups operate with almost military precision.
They were highly organized year-round organizations. Groups often numbering hundreds of members operate in dedicated shacks or studios for months, planning the themes, sourcing materials, constructing everything in secret.
And it's competitive.
Oh, fiercely competitive. There are prizes for music, costume design, overall presentation. This communal commitment, involving everyone from the young to the old, reinforces unity and collective responsibility under the banner of cultural pride.
And the spectacle is driven by this indigenous soundscape, a vibrant blend of West African polyrhythms filtered through American blues and mixed with specific Caribbean cultural elements.
Yes, so let's detail the unique instruments that create this mesmerizing noise.
The music is instantly recognizable and entirely acoustic. It starts with the traditional drums, often called gumbe drums.
Okay.
They're usually made with goatskin stretched tightly over wooden barrels, and they're played aggressively with bare hands, laying down that fundamental African rhythm.
But the most uniquely Caribbean sound has to be the rake and scrape. What exactly is that?
The rake and scrape is exactly what it sounds like, and it's a brilliant example of innovation from scarcity.
So it's literally a saw.
It's made by bending a common handsaw and scraping it rhythmically with a small knife or a nail.
It produces this distinctive rasping elastic sound that gives the music its specific Caribbean flavor.
The fact that an everyday tool became a primary musical instrument, it just speaks volumes about Kumba.
You also have the use of natural elements adapted for music.
Yes, the cop shells, known as seashell horns, are crucial. They require great lung power to blow, and they produce this rich, melodic, almost haunting tone.
And what holds the rhythm together?
You have the rhythmic stabilizers, the loud, steady beat provided by cowbells, which were historically adopted from cattle herding, and the whistles, which often use empty bottles blown across the top, maintaining a high-pitched, steady rhythm alongside the drums.
The combination is overwhelming. It's pure energy.
And the result is a sonic and visual spectacle that actively breaks down the boundary between performer and audience. The energy is so high and the rhythm so insistent that it forces collective movement.
Embodying unity through shared physical output.
And the Caribbean holiday season, much like Brazil and the U.S., is cemented by highly specific culinary rituals. The Jamaican black cake is maybe the most culturally powerful of these.
The black cake or rum fruit cake is a rich, dense, heavily spiced dessert.
It's the preparation that defines it.
Right.
The dried fruit is meticulously soaked, sometimes for months or even years, in rum and fortified wine. The intensity of the flavor is directly linked to the time and effort invested.
You referred to this as culinary metonymy earlier. Let's elaborate on that, because it links the cake directly to the history of the region.
So culinary metonymy is when a food item transforms the meaning of its ingredients.
Okay.
Rum and sugar were the raw materials of historical enslaved labor in the Atlantic economy commodities, produced under immense duress.
Right.
By transforming these foundational, often painful ingredients into an intensely rich, high-status holiday luxury, the cake achieves a kind of cultural alchemy. It asserts cultural depth, refinement, and self-worth.
So it symbolizes abundance, survival, and a mastery over the materials that wants to find their legion.
The cake is literally a statement of survival and abundance.
The preparation itself is an enduring family tradition passed through generations, reinforcing the strength and continuity of the lineage.
And what are the necessary festive drinks that would accompany this rich dessert?
Sol is absolutely essential to Caribbean Christmas celebrations.
It's a deep red, tart, spiced drink made from the sepals of the hibiscus flower, often infused with ginger, cloves, and cinnamon. It's festive, restorative, and, of course, frequently mixed with rum.
Naturally.
And holiday meals often feature other regional staples like cassava pie in Bermuda, stewed faltfish in St. Kitts, or mongo, the pounded plantain dish derived from West African fufu, which is prominent throughout the Spanish-speaking Caribbean.
Okay, now let's turn to the home continent, Africa, where December focuses on two distinct areas: the legal reality of statehood achieved through decolonization, and these massive modern cultural and economic spectacles that assert contemporary influence.
And South Africa's December 16th is one of a kind. It's one of the most complex geopolitical observances anywhere.
It's a mandated attempt to rewrite history through a single calendar date.
Yeah.
December 16th, the Day of Reconciliation, which was instituted in 1995 after the end of apartheid, is a profound political tightrope walk.
Its goal is explicit to foster reconciliation and national unity.
And the date was chosen because it carried deep, conflicting historical significance for both the Africa Minor minority and the liberation majority.
It forced two historically opposed narratives onto the same day for mandated healing.
So for the Africa community, it was formerly the Day of the Vow.
Right, commemorating the 1838 Voortrekker victory over the Zulu at the Battle of Blood River. It was a day celebrating military and colonial dominance.
And for the African population?
For them, December 16th marks the foundation of organized armed resistance against the apartheid state.
Okay.
It marks the 1961 founding of Umkhonto we, or MK, the armed wing of the African National Congress.
And MK carried out its first acts of sabotage on that very day.
It did, initiating the militant phase of the liberation struggle.
This is a remarkable act of political umoja.
How did the post-apartheid government manage to legislate the merging of these two opposing historical memories without triggering, widespread political backlash?
It required immense political sensitivity. The legislation didn't erase the memory of either event.
Okay.
Rather, it mandated that the country use that day to reflect on the events that led to the conflict and, more importantly, to promote national healing, dialogue, and non-racialism.
So it transforms a historical commemoration of division into a forward-looking mandate for unity.
Legislated and institutionalized by the state itself, aiming to repair those deep structural rifts inherited from apartheid.
And on a broader scale across the continent, December is heavily weighted toward the political realization of Kujilia.
Self-determination, through formal state independence.
Unlike the diasporic struggles, which focus on achieving cultural or political definition within existing Western nations, these December dates represent the literal declaration of state sovereignty.
They are the cornerstones of political liberation.
You see a clustering of Independence Days in December, signifying that political transition from colony to nation. It's the ultimate expression of self-determination.
Can you give us some key examples?
Certainly. In East Africa, you have Tanganyika, which later merged with Zanzibar to form Tanzania, gaining independence on December 9, 1961.
Okay.
Kenya achieved its independence from the UK on December 12, 1963, a date celebrated annually to affirm statehood.
And even further north,
Libya gained independence on December 24, 1951.
These adversaries are major national holidays, celebrated with military parades, cultural festivals, all affirming the literal reality of statehood.
And the other face of contemporary Africa in December is this massive cultural and economic spectacle known as Dedi December.
Particularly prominent in Ghana and Nigeria.
Right. This is a modern, commercially driven phenomenon that is fundamentally reshaping the relationship between the continent and the diaspora.
It's a deliberate cultural and commercial pilgrimage.
It is. It attracts a huge number of locals and diaspora members, especially from the UK and the US, for parties, Afrobeats, concerts, fashion shows, cultural events.
And this movement is a fantastic contemporary expression of Ujamaa cooperative economics on a continental scale, for sure. It's linking cultural identity directly to economic growth through tourism.
And the numbers back this up. For instance, Ghana's Year of Return initiative catalyzed this whole movement, and even in subsequent years, countries like Ghana received hundreds of thousands of international visitors in November and December.
The economic impact must be profound.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Hotels sell out, restaurants are packed, local entrepreneurs thrive.
It's commercial self-determination positioning Africa as a global center of cultural production and consumption.
And the physical manifestation of this creative economic drive is the massive Calabar Carnival in Nigeria.
Yes, the Calabar Carnival, often marketed as Africa's biggest street party.
It's a spectacular month-long event in Cross River State.
And its origin is crucial, right? It wasn't just a spontaneous celebration.
No, it was explicitly created by the government to utilize local performance culture and indigenous philosophies to build a major tourism template.
And diversify the state economy away from its reliance on oil revenue.
Exactly. It's Kumba creativity as an intentional economic strategy.
So what does it look like?
It features these elaborate bands, massive parade groups, each with a distinct theme, with intricate, colorful, flamboyant costumes, floats, music, synchronized dance.
So, it's a showcase.
It's a massive showcase of West African heritage, art, and hospitality, positioning Nigerian culture as a global asset. A strategic demonstration that cultural autonomy can be intrinsically linked to economic power.
So, what does this all mean when we put the four regions together? The analysis reveals this powerful shared cultural DNA.
Right. An inheritance that survived the Atlantic crossing and continues to shape global practice, often in the form of shared rituals.
And the enduring link is the concept of memory. Memory of struggle, memory of ancestors, and memory of the spiritual practices that sustain survival.
And these memories are encoded in specific material practices.
Whether it's a bowl of soup, a musical instrument, or a piece of colored cloth.
The most striking element for me is the parallel in New Year's prosperity rituals, particularly those involving lagoons.
Yes.
This suggests a deep, convergent diasporic impulse rooted in a common history of seeking spiritual conduits for wealth.
The preoccupation with economic stability is universal across the diaspora, and the rituals around the New Year reflect that. If we just review the examples.
Okay.
In the U.S., you have the tradition of eating black-eyed peas, often in Hopping John, meant to symbolize coins or future monetary fortune.
And then, in Brazil, the ritual mandates eating lentils, lente, which also resembles small coins.
Right.
And in the Caribbean, while it's not lentils, the black cake uses the most expensive, time-consuming ingredients available to symbolize economic abundance.
Rum, imported spices, long-soaked fruits.
The common thread isn't the specific type of legume. It's the conscious use of these small, roundful foods as spiritual magnets for wealth.
Reinforcing ujamaa through shared consumption.
And beyond the rituals, the foundational culinary DNA remains consistent across the diaspora.
It does. Diasporic food is fundamentally defined by African traditional flavors, starchy, oily, often using specific high-flavor ingredients adapted to the New World.
Which is why we see the prominence of yams, peanuts, complex stews like gumbo,
which comes from the African word for okra,
and the survival of pounded starchy dishes like mofongo in the Caribbean, directly linked to fufu from West and Central Africa.
Exactly. And on a philosophical level, that cultural DNA is most visible in the shared pursuit of Pan-African ideals.
Umoja, unity, and kuja, self-determination.
Despite the vast geographic separation and radically different political context.
So let's just summarize how unity, umoja, is enacted across the regions.
Okay, we see these varied approaches. Kwanzaa provides an internal, voluntary cultural mandate for maintaining family and race unity. It's grassroots.
Right.
Whereas South Africa's Day of Reconciliation is the inverse, a state-mandated holiday attempting to repair historical rifts through legislation.
And then, in the Caribbean, Junkanoo fosters intense community pride and companionship through the highly collaborative physical act of building and performing together.
And self-determination, kujalia, is expressed just as dynamically. It adapts to the specific needs of the local political reality.
It really does. Self-determination is realized in multiple dimensions.
In Africa, it meant declaring formal state independence.
The independent states of Tanzania and Kenya.
In the U.S., it's realized through cultural self-definition, creating Kwanzaa to define and speak for oneself.
And in Brazil, it's about elevating a marginalized art form, samba, to national and institutionalized status, forcing the larger culture to acknowledge the Afro-Brazilian contribution.
In the Caribbean, it's that resilient assertion of identity through artistic creation.
The Junkan costumes.
Art born of material scarcity, but asserting a spiritual presence that defies historical bondage.
It's incredible how the memory of historical resistance, whether it's the quiet spiritual vigilance of Watch Night, Rosa Parks's refusal, or the ANSI's first acts of sabotage, it always seems to funnel into a mandate for cultural creation and economic purpose.
The deep dive confirms that the creation of these cultural frameworks and structured celebrations is not a side project. It is absolutely essential for long-term political and economic liberation across the diaspora.
So the calendar itself becomes a strategic roadmap for maintaining identity and working towards shared goals.
Yes.
This deep dive confirms that December is anything but a quiet end to the year.
It is a powerful, synchronized, and dynamic period defined simultaneously by the solemn memory of historical struggles from 1862 to the 1950s and the vibrant celebration of cultural freedoms.
Kwanzaa, Junkanu, Samba, Deti Disemba.
Exactly.
The source material validates that the commitment to Pan-African ideals, unity, purpose, and self-determination is not abstract theory. It is continuously reinforced and renewed through specific, tangible rituals, foods, and spectacular performances.
And these traditions, born of necessity and resilience, still profoundly shape global culture and commerce today.
They do.
We've seen that these geographically distant traditions are synchronized in their intent, demonstrating that the pursuit of cultural autonomy is intrinsically linked to political and economic liberation.
The global Black calendar in December offers this rich, complex story of identity affirmation that the rest of the world is now increasingly recognizing and celebrating.
The calendar serves as a living, breathing record of resilience and foresight.
What element of this global Black calendar, whether it's researching the 7 bites of lentil stew or digging into the creative resilience behind the junkening rake and scrape instrument, or perhaps reflecting on the Nuzo Saba principle of Ujima in your own community, will you seek to explore further this December?